Hey, everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole podcast, where I have Jay Cotto here, one of my New York buddies. He's in logistics. He's a fantastic guy. He's got a really interesting personality, and he sells differently from other people. I also thought it would be really, really interesting to get the insight from somebody who's working in logistics, especially during COVID, because that shit must be crazy. 100% through and through. So, Jay, if you could please introduce yourself, that'd be fantastic.
Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate you having me on this podcast. This is pretty cool, and just excited about the opportunity to share here and hopefully can provide value to people out there in sales and people that are looking to better themselves in the marketplace, especially during COVID. But my name is Jay Cotto. I reside in New York, and for living, I'm actually logistics transportation, work for JP Express Trucking. I'm actually a director of corporate sales. I've been in business now for 15 plus years in the industry, and loving every aspect of it.
Gotta love that. Yeah, the transportation industry. I'm walking here, right? Yeah. Oh my God, I should actually talk back in my New York accent because I got rid of it so I could do public speaking properly. So we could do this the whole time. I'll talk like that the whole time. It'll actually be refreshing.
I'll bring it back, man.
Yeah, I'll bring it back. Why not? So, Jay, tell me a little bit about what you're doing differently from other people. Why are your sales so much better than everybody else's? What are you doing differently, and how do you add value without adding the price tag to it so people will buy without even thinking about the price?
Yeah, I've been in this game for a long time, and I've seen, a lot of people come into this business where, especially when you're in sales, it sounds great. Everyone wants to make money, and you should want to have that mentality. But at the end of the day, man, you never want to sell on price. Price is something that you stay away. If you're selling on price, that means you're showing weakness. And if you're showing weakness, obviously you're going to be dominated by the client. I always sell on value. And the reason why I sell on value is because when you sell yourself, people like you, they trust you, and you build transparency, they're going to buy from you. And especially during this whole COVID time, obviously, we've all been affected by this pandemic, and a lot of people have lost their job. From my understanding, 40 million people unemployed. And it's a rough market out there. But at the end of the day, this is the time where you could really build at a high level. Some sales reps say, hey, I'm home, I'm working out of the house. I really can't prospect. I really can't build up leads. It's hard to build my pipeline. That's baloney. Because right now is where you could really attack the marketplace, because we're not going to be in this slump forever. We're in the pandemic just temporarily. 2021 is going to be a bang out year. But if you're not digging deep right now, you're not digging in the trenches, and you're not out there networking, best place is LinkedIn. If you're not out there engaging with your client base and presenting value, but more importantly, selling yourself, not selling the product, because anyone can sell a product. It's really adding value. How can I share my expertise and help this client here build, their company? How can I provide a great return on their investment? Because if they're going to invest $100,000 on service from me, I got to make sure that I got to do my part so that they feel satisfied that I could deliver on what we're providing for them. So right. You never sell on price.
Right, exactly. And people need to understand that value is driven by the relationship that people have together. That's how it goes, And when it goes like that, selling yourself is the most powerful thing you could do, because anybody who has a pulse could try to sell a product or service, but that doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. Anybody who's ever tried selling a product or a service, I promise you, in the B2B market, probably failed. It didn't work out that well. Because guess what? Anybody could sell a product. Anybody could sell a service. What makes you different? What makes you different is the type of person who you are. Projecting that personality and actually having a real relationship built. People buy from people. I say this all the time. People buy from people that they trust, that they can relate to, and that they can resonate with. That's it. That's all they want. They want validation. They want to be told that everything's going to be okay. They want to get treated like a real human being. Because as soon as you start selling a product for a product's sake, that's when you start getting the issues where people feel like they're just another number. You're just reaching into the wallet and trying to take what they have. You're not trying to actually help them.
That's right.
And what are some of the processes that you do to try to help the people that you work with? What are some of the helping processes that add that value? What do you do differently?
Yeah, what I do different is basically, I want to find a need. I want to find where there's some pain points. I'm going in really as a consultant, not as a sales rep, but someone that really cares. I empathize with the client, let them know, hey, you know what? I'm a person like you. I'm not here to take advantage of you. I'm going to put myself in your shoes because if you're going to invest a lot of money in me, I better be the right guy. And I got to earn your respect, number one. I got to earn your trust. So I'm going to be authentic with you straight from the start. So I'm not going to overpromise you anything that we can't deliver. There's a lot of salespeople that do that.
Under promise, over deliver.
That's right.
Always.
So I'm straight authentic, and I let them know, hey, if I can provide the service, I'm going to do it for you. But if I can't provide, I'm going to be honest with you and say, hey, I can't do this. And that goes a long way. We're not the cheapest in the industry. But you know what? If you're authentic and you're real and you're honest and you let them know up front, people spend more money on value in you than you sugarcoating, something that you can't really provide. So I think authenticity is the number one thing that I really come across the client, and I let them know, hey, you got a real person here. If you ever got an issue, you call me on my cell phone. My cell phone's never off. It's on 24/7 because you mean something to me. That's how important your business is.
Yeah, and cell phone relationships are really important. If people are not tracking the mobile number, that's a serious problem, because if you can have a texting relationship with somebody, you know who people text? They text their friends. That's who they text. If you're texting a salesperson, that person now becomes a friend. You've built that relationship at a whole nother level that without that, if you're just emailing the work email address or you're just calling their office phone number, what are you going to get? You're gonna just be another sales guy. There's no actual communication happening there. People shut off their personal feelings when they're using work software, emails, whatever else it is. But when you're texting someone the same way that their wife texts them, or their best friend texts them, or their boyfriend texts them, or girlfriend, or whatever, you're now at the same level as those people. So that sets you apart from everybody else. Right. That actually, I think, what I talk about all the time is that I don't like how sales is called a numbers game. It's not a numbers game. Everything, you can argue everything's made of numbers. Yeah, sure. Everything could turn into math because that's just how physics works, right? Yeah, for sure. Quantum physics, everything's made up of numbers and waves. But that's besides the point. Without that case in point, it's not a numbers game because it's a relationships game, as you're saying. You need to be genuine, authentic. And if you're not doing that, you're treating them like they're a number. Why is it a numbers game? And why do all the sales leaders out there, many of them that are doing it the old style way, saying that sales is a numbers game, and that's why people are so pissed off at sales? Why do you think people avoid salespeople intentionally? Oh God, there's a salesperson. I don't even want. Google doesn't allow their salespeople to even be called salespeople. It's against their policy. They can't even mention the word. And what does that mean to you?
When I see an amateur like that, and they're just, they scare me, those kind of salespeople, because they're just there to really try to get the customer and not really add value. And a lot of times those people don't succeed in sales. And then they put a bad name on sales because they didn't do it the right way. Sales is an inside job. You gotta like to talk to people. You gotta like to connect with people. If you're a type of person that doesn't like to communicate with people at a high level, there's no way you're going to be successful. You're interacting with people, and you're expecting them to hand over their wallet, and you're not providing the right value. Why should I give you business? What makes you different from the guy that came 3 days ago from ABC company selling me the same product? Because people are going to buy from you if they like you and they trust you, and if there's a real need there. But if you're going in there like a car salesman, the best deal behind the wheel, you're like everyone else, man. Those guys I run away from because they don't get it. They don't understand it. They're thinking about their pocket. If you're smart, you provide the value, you slow down to speed up. What does that mean? That means you do the legwork in the beginning the right way. You present yourself the right way. You find out, you do the investigation. You really check the pulse of that client. See how they're feeling, what's going on, what's really happening. Step back from the situation. Take your mind off the sale. Think about, hey, how can I really help this client? How can I make an impact in their business? Because when I make an impact in their business, I'm going to be taken care of regardless. But in order for me to make an impact on them, on myself, I got to make an impact on them first.
That's right. And, who's going to invest in something that's not going to make the money? Sure, you're charging the money. If you're thinking of, oh, yeah, I want to make money off of this, are you going to make them money? Would you buy something that doesn't make you money or give you value? That's the entire idea. And putting yourself in the shoes of the client, that's the hardest thing to do. When you're prospecting someone, trying to see it from their perspective, and that's what people really struggle with when they're doing sales. I know so many salespeople who lack the ability to do that. If you can't put yourself in the shoes, how can you understand where they're coming from? That's saying you need to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Well, you need to know where the shoes are first. If you don't know where the shoes are, then what are you going to do? That's the same type. I'm referencing as someone who has no idea about a certain industry. They don't know anything about the industry. They're trying to penetrate a new industry. They haven't taken the time to learn anything about it, or they sell to multiple industries. Okay, today I'm going to sell to financial advisors. You know nothing about the financial advisor market. How the hell are you supposed to relate to that person in any way? You're going to do a general product pitch, and then everything that they tell you is going to be news. And you're going to be sitting there thinking, looking stupid the whole time, just saying, so do you want to buy it? How the hell is that supposed to work? That's what people do every single day. You know how many salespeople call me and they do that same thing? And they say, oh, yeah, you're in the IT space. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. The technology I build has nothing to do with IT. IT is more like management. And what we're doing is that we're software as a service. We're data as a service. We're artificial intelligence. And people say, oh, I'd like to service your custom development company. We have never offered custom development since we started the damn company. Not even once. You know that little about me. I mean, really. You could have just looked at my LinkedIn and you know the answer to that, right? And so when it comes back to the trust thing that you're saying, trust is extremely important when it comes to anything, because trust is your longevity. That's why people stay with you. If you are being if you're being ignorant and you're thinking that, oh yeah, no, they'll stick with us because we're a great option. The price is fantastic, as you were saying with the price thing. Guess what? Do you know how many of your competitors are constantly trying to sell the people that are your clients every single day? Oh yeah, no, we sell to people all the time. We cold call all the time, blah, 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 blah. Like that. Yeah, like they're not doing that too. At any given moment, if they lose that trust, if you lose your rapport, or you start not actually servicing that relationship, you're going to lose all your clients.
I agree. It's funny that you mentioned that, because trust is everything. Trust is your credibility. I always I tell my sales guys, hey, you know what? You could make a lot of money in sales in any endeavor, in any industry. But at the end of the day, if your word is your bond, if you say something to a client and you don't follow through, that's like a little X they put on you. Because the more, it's easier to lose a client today than to find a client, especially through the times that we're living in. So you want to make sure that you're 100% accurate. I always say, hey, if you don't have an answer for the client, say, hey, let me get back to you. Let me find out. Don't try to, give them this little sale tactic or this little sleazy thing to make them, feel good that you can do it all. Because I always learn, if you know it all, why you're not on top. I've always liked to be the guy that's number two, because I don't know it all. I'm still learning from the best. But at the end of the day, if you're honest in that trust word that you have and people believe in you, they're going to stay with you, because that's the relationship you developed.
Yeah, what I'm thinking, though, hey, I agree with you, but the people who are on top, the people who know it all, I actually disagree with that, because, I'm on the top of my company, but guess what? I know enough to know what I know and know what I don't know. That's what makes me really intelligent. The people who are leading companies who know it all, or they claim to, they don't know shit. You know where they belong? They belong at the bottom to start over, because that teacup's full and it's spilling over. That's all it is. That's all it is. They think they know everything and they actually know nothing. That's what makes them hard-headed, and that's what turns a leader into a boss. If they're your boss, guess what? That relationship's not that great. They just tell you what to do, and if you don't do it their way, it's the highway. There are certain things like that called processes, and there's operations. But if they're saying, this is the way it's done because I know everything, fuck that guy. You shouldn't even work for him. I wouldn't.
I agree. I 100% agree. He's an idiot.
Yeah. If you think you know it all, you know nothing. You probably know less than the guy next to you. The guy who's second usually knows more. In that case, if the boss knows it all, the guy who's underneath him is the guy who's actually running everything. He's just a puppet who gets really loud and upset about things and wants to make a lot of money. That's it.
That's right. I agree.
That's it. And so I want to lead that into when you're working with a business, let's say any business that you've worked with before, what are some of the things that you see employees or people in sales, just employees in general, what they're doing that's wrong, that it just pisses you off beyond belief because why is it happening? And it's something that you want to change in the market.
What I see a lot in sales and just people in general, they're never organized. They never do the research on the front end on an organization that they're trying to prospect. They go in there blindly. They sound like they have no clue about the industry that they're visiting, and now they're trying to present their pitch, to this big client, and they really have no value. I always say, hey man, you want to do your homework. If you're going to set up an appointment with a client, you should know about that client better than they know it, their own business. You should know the stats. You should know their revenue. Go on Better Business Bureau, go to BBB, check these guys out, check their ratings, check about what is their mission. You should go in there and know that and wow that client and say, wow, you know more than me. Because if you're not prepared for that meeting, you're just winging it. And you're now exposing yourself as a lousy sales rep. They're going to tell you, yeah, we're going to call you back. They never call you back because you did it wrong. You got to separate yourself from all the other salespeople that come with these sleazy little lines. They never do the real research. They really never have, exactly how to provide the value that they want to, because they're trying to go in there to fill up their pocket, but not understand the business that they're visiting.
Right.
So research is something that I see a lot of guys, they don't really dig in deep. They just kind of I'm going to walk in here, I'm going to cold call, and I'm going to just sit down and talk to the CEO of the company, and he's going to sign off on this deal for me. That never happened.
Right. I feel the same way about it. That's what we were talking before. People call me and then they have nothing to say about they don't even know where I work. You have just wasted my time, and then I never want to speak to you again.
Right.
Total waste of my time. At least know something about me.
Right.
Anything.
Right.
Anything at all. That I'm a New York Yankees fan. That's at least something you can relate to. That's it. Like if that's all you knew and you knew nothing about my business and you had something pretty cool, maybe I'd listen to you because you'd be asking me about that. And of course, I'm very interested in that. And like what my company does, all we do is stare at broken down sales data all day, every day. We enrich it, we enhance it, and then we do predictions and stuff like that with sales. So I look at broken down sales data all day, every day, so I can see the little nuances and stuff like that, which is really interesting. The biggest problem in the market is that 95% of businesses do not actually track or log their data properly at all. I've seen businesses' data. It's absolutely unbelievable. There's no sales activities tracking. There's no email tracking. There's no communication tracking whatsoever. There's not even a single pipeline. There's no separate pipelines, a single pipeline at that. All I do, I just marked them as a customer when we sold them. So, okay. This is something that I really like to ask. I don't know if you know the answer to it, but I like shocked some. It was deer in headlights. I was speaking to a VP of sales, deer in headlights. I asked him this. He said, I don't need help with my sales data. I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 hot-headed thing. I was like, yeah, sure. You're seeing the short term and you don't know what the bigger picture looks like, but whatever. That was besides the point. I asked him this, froze up for it was like 10 seconds of silence. Said, okay, so how many sales activities on average does it take for your team to close a deal?
6.
You know your answer because you can track properly.
Right.
You understand your data and you're doing the right things.
Right.
He had no answer to that at all. Nothing.
Wow.
Deer in headlights, and then he was insulted by it. He's insulted because he wasn't doing his job.
Call them out.
I didn't even call him out. I just asked him a question.
Yeah.
That's it. So I said, well, maybe you do need our help. And then, he said, oh, well, maybe we do.
Right.
So at least acceptance came in. Usually it's denial, anger, and then acceptance comes later. But no, it went straight to acceptance. But I've found that in this market, we work in sales data all the time. As I was saying, is that people are really open to it. I asked them, so what's the state of your sales data? How much data do you have on your customer base, on your prospects, everything like that? Usually people open up right away. They look a little bit embarrassed, and they're just like, honestly, it's not great. Or they go, honestly, I don't even know what data we track. I have no idea. I've never even looked at the CRM. And you're talking to the CEO of a company. No idea what data is getting tracked. No idea. Or they say, we need help. And we've had to assume the space of, yeah, we do sales data consulting. Google it. There's 3 companies that do it, and they're all in German. And it's super technical. Doesn't exist. So that's something we started doing because people really need help. It's in the market, but nobody wants to admit to the problem, and nobody talks about it. It's something that's never talked about. So when you're tracking your data, when you're telling your team to keep track of all the companies that they're working with, to do what they do best, the reason your company's been so successful, what are you telling them to do? How do you tell them that it's important to keep track of that stuff? Which the research leads to that. You need to know about the company, be able to put data on the company, but how do you tell your team that that's important?
Well, if you don't have any information, then you basically have no business. So, obviously, I tell my guys, hey, you're in sales. You don't work for me. You work for me, but at the end of the day, it's your territory is your own business. So if you don't have any data in there, if you don't have any information that we can track, if I can't provide value, if I can't help you on that call, and if I don't see it in the Salesforce, I make sure my guys update their Salesforce every day. So before the end of the night, before they go home, they update their Salesforce, what they're working on, their pipeline, what's coming up, what's their 30-day look like, what's their 60-day forecast looks like, what are some areas that they need help in. So everything is tracked. Even especially now that it's COVID and all my guys are working from home, I don't like to micromanage my people because they're businessmen. I didn't get into the business to micromanage. If you're in the business because you want to run your own company, this is the name of the game. If I got to micromanage you, then I probably don't need you. So if you're not going to put the information that I'm looking for, there's going to be, repercussions. So at the end of the day, I'm expecting information every night so that I can help you grow your business and make sure that you're efficient when you're out there and you know exactly what's going on, how we could move forward in the next step in the process of whatever opportunity you're working with.
That's right. And it really is kind of their business because guess what? Salespeople work for commission. So if you're not doing sales, you're not making money. It's that simple.
Your own franchise. I tell them that.
That's it. That's it. I couldn't agree more with that. And yeah, there should be repercussions because they're screwing over the company, not just themselves. You know who suffers? The whole company does. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'm not making commission. No, I'm lazy. I just want to make a salary or whatever. Yeah, no, if you're a trusted salesperson and they're paying you a salary and you're not bringing in any deals, first off, you're not making as much money. Second off, you're screwing the company, and that's affecting for the product team. It's affecting the services team. It's affecting operations. It's literally lighting the roof on fire for accounting. Sure. And it's a wild time. And people need to be more mindful of what's going on because they don't know what's going on. And they don't even care to know what's going on. What would you say to those leaders out there in sales to actually enable them to do this? What to tell their employees to get them to actually start following processes like this?
Well, I always say, hey, man, if you got into this business, obviously, sales is not for everyone. Everyone likes the word sales because you're kind of on your own. You're kind of doing your own thing. But at the end of the day, you're still micromanage what numbers you bring in that month. Because if you're not putting numbers on the board, then what the hell are you doing? Obviously, most people want to get a sales job because they got a cushy base. But how long can you live on that cushy base? And how long is that company going to continue paying you, XYZ dollars if you're not bringing in what you said you were going to bring in? So I'm pretty straightforward, my guys. I say, hey, I'm not going to micromanage you guys at all, but I'm expecting you guys to hit your numbers. And if you're not hitting your numbers, you probably don't have a great game plan on what you're doing. Maybe we need to revisit that. Maybe we need to see how you're planning out your day, how many calls you're planning, how many emails you're sending out to prospects, how many dials you're making. Maybe we have to relook at that, or maybe we have to see, hey, all right, let's block out some time where you can prospect for 2-3 hours a day. So I'm pretty hard on that because at the end of the day, I have to report up to my boss, and they want to know, hey, what's going on with so and so. So if so-and-so is not doing their job at 100%, I got to come down and say, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? And if that person doesn't want to respond, obviously we have an issue there to work with.
Yeah, they don't want to work then.
Right.
And it's dangerous to have people around that don't want to work. And a lot of these companies that are offering fat sales salaries, where they're offering, 6 figures for a salesperson, that's absolutely absurd. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why are you paying them that much money? They're making commission. It means they can't sell. If a
Exactly.
salesperson applies to my company and they're expecting 6 figures, I literally laugh at them. I'm like, oh, so you have no idea how to sell. You feel like you need to be compensated that much because you can't make your own commission. We pay low base salary, very high commission. That's when we get the people who really know what they're doing because they see the commission, they see the potential there, and they know they could sell. If they know that they could sell, the salary shouldn't even be a thought in your head. The salary is irrelevant. If you can really sell, that salary is going to be what? 5% of what you're making.
That's right.
It's irrelevant. It's not even, it doesn't mean anything. That money doesn't mean anything. So if you're good at selling, stop looking for a high paying job salary wise and look for the job that's going to pay you the most commission with the best numbers. That's right. What you should be looking for as a very seasoned salesperson. And a lot of people make this mistake. Oh yeah, no, the salary's not high enough, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you can really sell a product and that product is doing well, or if it's a new innovative product, or if it's a new innovative service, or if it's somebody who's really trusted, who have accounts, then absolutely just go for it. And then there's other places too where they're doing fantastic, multi-billion-dollar company, but guess what? They already work with everybody and their mother. So when you become part of the sales team, you can't close shit because guess what? They already work with them. It's existing business. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah. At the end of the day, you know, my thing is, hey, you know, a product is a product. Anyone can sell a product. You know, it's really the client's going to buy you. You know, making money in sales. You know, everyone could do it, but not everyone does it. Like you mentioned, at the end of the day, you got to get out there. You got to step out of your comfort zone. Most people want the cushy base because they want to relax. They want to just kind of chill out, hide out. You know, they do the minimums to not be noticed. You know, I call them, they stay under the radar. You know, they want to stay on the radar. So they just give a little bit. They plug in all the numbers in Salesforce. They give you what you want. They give you what you want to hear. But at the end of the day, you don't see any real numbers. You don't see any real growth because at the end of the day, sales is 20-80. There's a 20-80 rule out there. I don't know if you've heard of the 20-80 rule, but
oh, yeah.
you know, 80% of the staff are not doing anything. The real go-getters are the 20% of the people that run the company. They're the ones that bring in the real revenue. Those are the guys that are moving and shaking out there. Those are the guys you don't even have to worry about what they're doing because they're cranking it. You know, I got some guys that are out there cranking. I don't care if they're out playing golf. I don't care if they're sleeping because they're always over 100% over quota and they're making money. They don't need to be managed because they have a family at home and they know how important it is to make money. They're not depending on a base. They're depending on how much they can make. And at the end of the day, that's up to you. If you really want to succeed, you got to stop making excuses. You got to grow up. Stop being a baby. You got into sales. Welcome to the real world. Welcome to the professionals. You know, welcome to the pros. If you want to be a pro, if not, stay with the Pee Wee League team. Don't get into sales. Get behind a desk job. Do a regular 9-to-5 job that's going to pay you a simple salary. But if you really want to take it to the next level and you want to grow as a person, you want to get your skills right, you want to be out there, provide value, you want to help people, you want to see companies grow, you want to see companies shine, you got to get your game right. And if your game ain't right, it ain't happening.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there. And it makes a lot of sense. People need to step up to the plate. I was speaking to a company yesterday. They have 2 salespeople at the company. One salesperson, just like you said, exactly 80% of the sales are closed by the one salesperson, 20% is closed by the other.
Yep.
Quite literally that. And if it's a larger, let's say you have 10, it's going to be about the same. And I've seen people's sales data. I see it all the time. It's about that 80-20 almost every single time. Even if it's 10 people doing the 80%, and then you've got 80 people doing the 20%, that's always how it's going to go.
100%.
And sitting there with your thumb in your ass is not going to it's not going to do you any favors, especially in sales. Like you're saying, you need to be a go-getter. If you're not a go-getter, what are you doing? You shouldn't be in sales. A desk job is something that it's relaxed. You have a set schedule every day. And that's also why I don't believe in quotas. I think quotas are the death of sales. It's the most ridiculous thing. And that objectifies sales as a numbers game when the amount of calls is not going to make a difference. I don't give a shit if my sales guy works 2 hours a day or even 2 hours a week. If he's closing deals and more deals than everybody else, I don't give a shit how much you work. I'm going to pay you salary and your commission. You fucking earned it, and I'll give you a bonus. I don't give a shit. If you're getting me business, that's exactly what I want. That's all I care about. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But my point is that a quota is not going to help anybody. If there's a quota and someone people get fired all the time. It's like, oh, you didn't make enough calls this month. But guess what? They close more business than anybody else because they're on the phone with people who actually want to talk to them, having successful meetings. You can't make 40 fucking calls in a day if they're all good calls. You're going to make 4, maybe 5 if you're going to take a lunch. That's it. How do you expect someone to make 40 calls? That means your expectation is that your team is garbage.
Yeah.
Why is that the process? Why is that the way shit works?
Yeah, I agree. I think, a lot of times, organizations put pressure on the sales team. And I think sometimes when they put so much pressure on the sales team, sales guys don't, they don't max out. I think a lot of times and I see it in my industry, I try not to put any pressure on my guys because pressure makes it harder. And then, like I said earlier, who the guys are who's gonna go out there and make it happen. They put the numbers on the board. I don't give a rip if my guy's out there. He works a day or two, or he takes the rest of the week off because he's out there showing that he could put numbers on, and he's out there running his company at a high level, and he doesn't make excuses. So companies that do put a lot of pressure on their reps, it's because maybe the manager doesn't want to work. Maybe he wants to hang out, and maybe he's expecting to beat up his reps because I see it happen all the time. He wants to take the whip and beat them because he doesn't want to go out there and help them. How do you expect to see a team grow if you're not in there helping them and showing them the steps?
I love the point you made right there because it ties into the factor of do not make your top sales performer the fucking sales manager ever for any reason. All they do is they work for themselves. They compete to be the best teammate when they should be competing to create the best team. That's one of the biggest problems in the market right now in sales is poisonous. If you make the top performer the manager, all he's going to do is close deals himself and say fuck it to everybody else because it's going to affect his commission. You need to make the person who's the most organized and the person who's the biggest team player the sales manager, because if your manager is a top performer, all they do is perform. They don't manage. If you make someone who's managerial or they care about the team and they're more giving and they would just want to help people, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. They need to be able to keep that team together and keep them on point, doing the best that they can, becoming the best versions of themselves and keeping those top performers in check. You don't trust a top performer to lead a team. Sometimes that may not be true because the top performer might be a team player and everything like that. But most of the time, if someone has that attitude, if they have that drive, you don't put them in that position because they're not going to help anybody but themselves.
Right. I agree 100%. Absolutely.
So what do you think of the whole competition in the sales place type of thing, the sales workplace, the competitions, everything like that? I personally think that the market's a little bit too competitive, and that's actually driving who can be the top performer and then nobody can manage each other. What do you think about all that?
Well, the marketplace, I always hear people say it's saturated, there's so much competition out there, people, provide more, service than you. At the end of the day, that's baloney. I don't, there's so many businesses out there. There's so many people. There's new businesses that open up every day. There's new companies that open up. It doesn't matter what's happening in the marketplace. They use this whole COVID stuff as a way of not to work. Competition doesn't mean anything. It's basically, are you out there grinding? Are you out there strategizing? Hey, how can I really look for new business? You see, most people, they have a book of business and they kind of sleep on their book of business. They manage. They got, they prop up their clients, their top accounts, and they're constantly going in there to meet them. And for what?
It's survival mindset versus growth mindset. It's right. Either you're growing or you're dying.
Right. It's 100%. It's 100%. I don't believe in just continue to deal with and babysit your top accounts. If you're smart, you're pulling referrals out of that top account. You're trying to figure out, all right, who's the competition that's going in? I'm always asking for leads. I'm always asking, hey man, we've done a great job for you, and I know your market is pretty big, and you are connected with all these other organizations out there. Who else you think I can get a lead from? And if you have and remember, it comes back to relationship. Not every client's going to give you that information. Not everyone's going to give you that lead. But if the relationship is intact and you've built enough relationship where there's trust there, they're going to open up the door for you to provide you with leads from other people in their industry because they're not the only one that's in the game.
That's right. And I'll add to that too, where rapport is very important too. And in a previous podcast, we talked about how rapport and relationship are different. The relationship needs to be intact. If the relationship is intact, but the rapport with you is not great, if you ask them for referrals, they'd be happy to refer them to your business, but they would not refer them to you.
Right.
That's the thing, is that you need that rapport so they respect you, and you need that relationship so it's driving their value and you're benefiting them. That's how that's going to go. And referrals are the best way too. I mean, if you have these
low hanging fruit.
With people that are doing cold calling, or they develop a relationship, they end up not buying, it's a loss. They forget that person existed. If you've actually built a relationship with them, chances are they're going to know somebody who does need your service, even though they don't qualify. And guess what? They're going to recommend you. And if they recommend you and they have a legitimate relationship with that person, you have a really high chance of closing. So if they have a good standing relationship and rapport with the person that they're recommending you to, and they're actually in demand and looking for that product, after that referral, you have a 40% chance of closing. Not a 2.5% chance like a cold outreach. You've got a 40% chance. And 2.5% for successful engagement, and then it's like 18% of that or something like that. So you have a really low chance with cold. But that's the point, is that if they qualify and this person knows this person, so chances are they do actually need what you're looking for because they talked about it yesterday, or like last week or something like that. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, leads are basically low-hanging fruit. But, it's all driven by the relationship, as we've been chatting here. It's all sales is driven by relationship, man. If you're good at your game and you've built enough rapport and you've done the right thing, you're honest 100% from the start as you develop that account, referrals should be a home run, man, because you plant enough seeds in that account that they feel good about you, and you're basically the guy they're gonna call. They think about you all the time because all of what you've done for them. The late night hours that they've reached out to when they had issues, you answer the phone. The problems that maybe some service issues that went through that didn't happen the way they expected, you made sure that you took care of those service issues. So those little things go a long way. So I'm constantly always going back, asking my top accounts, hey man, we've done a great job for you. We do quarterly reviews with our, all our accounts. We go back in there, we look at the stats, we let them know, hey man, this is how much business you guys did with us. We give them we call it a report card, a scorecard. And we go through that information thorough with them. They like that because they want to know how good they're doing with us. And also they want to see areas that we're lacking and how we get better. And when you're authentic about that information, that locks that client even more with you at a higher level. But more importantly, that generates eventually is going to lead to more business, whether it's from them or it's coming from referrals that they can lead you to. And not only that, when you call on those referrals, you're not going there as a cold call. They're actually doing the introduction for you, and you're going there as a warm call. So it's not like you're starting from the bottom and you're trying to get in. You're talking to, Sally, who's the gatekeeper. No, you're going right to the CFO because so-and-so gave you the indoor to go in.
Yeah, that's a real gem, by the way, what you said there with your business for logistics. I swear to God, that puts you in like the top 1% just because of the fact that you go over that information. You know how many logistics companies just keep ripping people off and overcharging them? Wow. There's entire businesses where all they do is audit that and renegotiate. That's all they do. That's their whole business. You know why they're in business and making tens of millions of dollars? Because people are getting ripped off left and right all the time. That's it. So be honest. And that puts you on top right there. You don't have a risk of that happening to you because of the way that you go over all the statistics with the customer, and you can start making it better. You can make it cheaper, better, faster, stronger. And that's fantastic. I think that's great. That's admirable. And that's something more people should do.
Absolutely. I agree.
So I appreciate that. And further into it, with what you were saying about delivering the value with that type of an approach, with exactly with what you were saying, how you're being honest with them, what level of honesty do you think that you need to provoke in people to actually have them understand that you are being honest? If you push too hard, it sounds like you're lying.
I think it's just being sincere. I think it's just being, not being fake. I think if you're normal, because there's a lot of salespeople that are not normal, they're abnormal. They're just weird. And if you're just sincere, I think sincere to go a long way. Like some people don't even know what sincere is. They're like, how do you be sincere? That's something that's inside. That's an inside job.
That question scares the shit out of me as a leader.
Yeah.
I've asked, are you being sincere with me? And they go, well, what would that mean?
They don't know what it means.
Like, holy shit, I got to get away from this guy.
They don't get it. So I think if you're sincere and you're heartfelt, because at the end of the day, you have to wear your heart on your sleeve. If you're just kind of there just trying to get the, ring the bell because you got the sale, man, they could smell it. It's like a dog. Whenever you see a dog and he looks at you, gives you that look, most dogs, they, if they like you, they kind of wag their tail. They come and they want to lick you. But people can sense when you're a fake. They can sense by just how you talk, how you carry yourself, and if you're just honest, man, from the start, and just being sincere at a high level and understanding that you're there to help this client. You're not there to help you. You're there to help them, because helping them eventually helps you. You see, that's why I always say you want to slow down to speed up. See, most sales reps want to go in there and clock the client over the head and, sell them with this, stuff that a lot of times they don't even need.
I told them in 11 minutes when the meeting is supposed to take about 45. You probably didn't even get to the point yet. Well, so in some cases, yeah, they were sold because they saw the value right away. They know they needed it. And that means they were looking for something like that. But if that's not the case, where it needs to be an educational, more consultative process, that's not what you want. That means that they're going in blind. And that's going to cause a nightmare for your customer success team, which is ultimately going to cost them hours, which costs the company money, which creates a headache for the services team because they need to try to improve services that are literally services that they should not be meeting the expectation for because it's the wrong demographic of person that you're selling to. And it's all because you screwed up the sale and sold to the wrong person without giving them all the information. So if you think a sale is good for being a sale, guess what? That customer that's paying you $100,000 a year is actually costing you $250,000.
Exactly.
Except people, they see the short term and they see what's in front of them. It's just line directly at this affects my salary. This affects my commission. I need to make more sales because this is what I do and it's going to make me money and everything like that. Guess what? If the company suffers where you're at and you're closing sales like that, guess who's going to be the first one out?
You are.
You. Son of a bitch. It's going to be you. It's going to come back around. And that's the way it's going to go. Or guess what? There's going to be salary cuts. Oh, there's going to be layoffs. Oh, that guy that's in the services team, guess what? He just lost his job and can't feed his kid and wife because you're an asshole.
Right. I'm old school. I say, hey, you do unto others that you want to be done to you. If you never want to treat people the way you don't want to be treated. Treat people the right way. Present yourself at a high level with respect and integrity and character, because that goes a long way. You don't see that anymore. Everyone's just trying to go in for the quick bang and the quick sale, and that doesn't last and that doesn't work. Your reputation is everything. So I believe your word is your bond, and if you wear your heart on your sleeve, man, you're going to be successful at a high level, and people want to be around you more and more than ever. Your name's going to go around because sometimes sales reps don't think that the other companies don't know who you are. It's a small world, man. We don't live in a big world. If you're calling on a certain segment, they all know each other. So if you screw that one customer up, trust me, that person's going to go and tell all their friends. Because they all meet up together. They all have drinks at the bar. They're all competitors, but they all know each other. And if you screw one, he's going to come back to bite you. So that's why you always lead with your best foot out, and you always do the right thing on the front end. Because if you lie, you can't remember all your lies. That's why I say be honest.
Yeah, you can't keep up with it. And for example, the accounts that you're talking about, people remember you. They know who you are, everything like that.
Things.
I like using my dad for an example. So he's in, parts and wholesale for automotive, right? That's what he sells. He's parts and wholesale manager. He works up in Brewster, New York. So just about an hour north of you. And he's the guy that everybody goes to. Everybody goes to him. He has such good relationships. He's built such rapport that when he isn't in work, let's say he takes a vacation, nobody calls anymore. It's a fact. And that, he's the highest paid salesperson out of anybody in the entire state of New York who does what he does. The reason why is because he drives all the business. There are people down in the Bronx who have their parts delivered to them, and they've got they've got a Honda that they can order parts from over in, Long Island. They can get it from right over there. Guess what? No, they don't. They get it from Brewster, which is upstate. And the reason why is because they're dealing with Jim. That's it. It's the guy. If he left that place, they'll
follow him.
Their sales would tank. And that's the thing. If they've said this to him too, they're like, Jim, if you ever move somewhere else, I'm buying all my parts from you. Screw them. It's not them that I'm doing business with. It's you that I'm doing business with.
There you go.
It's that same thing right there. That is just living proof.
People buy from you, man. That's it. They don't buy from the company.
That's right. They don't buy from the company. They buy from the person. And that's the thing. That's why it's all about relationships. That's why it's not numbers. The company only makes the numbers when the people are good. Your word is your bond. It's important that you're building these relationships, and it's important to have that rapport. If you're not doing all of that, and you're a salesperson out there, and you're wondering why you're not making any money, the answers are right here in front of you. This is why. If you're disingenuous, if you're just out there trying to rip people off, or if you think that building relationships is not for you or a joke, change what you do. Change your career. You weren't built for it. If you're going to be some big shot one day, if you don't make these changes, you're not going to get there. It's a fact. And with what you were saying too, with treat people like people want to be treated well. Tell the large enterprises to do that because they treat the peoples like shit. It's true. They treat them like shit. You're just another number. They treat you like they treat their clients, and you work for them. Oh, yeah, let's say if you make a little slip up or a mistake or something like that, they're going to fire you because you're just another number. And that's how salespeople are treated often, is that it's a commodity. It's a traded commodity. No, we don't have use for that one anymore. Let's just throw it out. It's like paper plates. I know that's a fucked up analogy, but guess what? That's what's happening. Salespeople to most companies are like paper plates. You use them up and then you throw them out. The covered in grease, that's nasty. No, throw it out. Oh, this one has a tear in it. No, let's get a different one. It's the same thing. I know it's pretty messed up, but what do you think, Jay?
No, I call them the train. They come and go.
They come and they go.
It's a revolving door, and I agree 100% what you were saying. At the end of the day, there's a lot of organizations that just beat up their people, and they get the best out of them. And a lot of times, there's a lot of potential in some of these guys. They just sometimes just need a little help, or maybe they're afraid to approach their manager or certain things because they might get screamed at. And I just think sometimes there's people in positions that they shouldn't be in, and they just because they get a big head. But
that is an issue with leadership, though, from the top down. If you're afraid to approach your boss, or you think you're going to lose your job, if you make a connection to something that is an issue or potentially hurting the company, and all they do is yell at you, and you're afraid of getting fired for that, you should probably stop working there. You should never be your boss. Your boss is a problem solver. You bring it up, you talk about it, and then you find a resolution. That's how it should be done. If you get yelled at when there's an issue, I would recommend quitting because I wouldn't want to be in that culture. It's a poisonous company culture if you can't approach the person who's supposed to help solve your problems to solve your problems, and they just let that shit fester constantly. What are you doing working there?
Yeah, that's an organization that's ready to come down, and that's a cancer there, unfortunately, and that's not a place where you want to be there. It's very intoxicated. The vibe is not right, and the morale has got to be in a dump. You want to be in a place where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated.
That's right. Oh, I love that. Go to a place where you're celebrated, not tolerated.
That's it.
If people have to tolerate you, that means they don't like you in the first place.
Why are you there?
Yeah, or if it's like I've worked for corporations where it's like a high school cliques. If you don't fit in with the group, or if you don't do or think the way that they do, that you're completely shunned. It's disgusting.
Right.
What are we, 14? The hell's going on here? I stopped working there because I was like, holy shit, what is this? This is a high school 2.0, Oh, yeah, no, I don't like watching football, so the account managers wouldn't talk to me. And I wasn't some weirdo art guy when I was in the design department working there as a graphic designer. Guess what? I didn't fit in with them because they were like, oh, no, this guy's too, like grounded. That's like how it was. And then nobody would talk to each other. The only people I got along with actually was the sales department because they didn't give a shit. And the way that it worked in the sales department, that was the only non-toxic part of the company, which is surprising because usually sales is the most toxic. Everybody respected each other. Everybody accepted each other for who they were and everything like that. It was so backwards. The whole company was all fucked up except for the sales.
That's hilarious, but that's true though.
Like
sales people are normally negative, especially when they're not closing business, and they want to tell you their problems. They want to dump on you and throw up on you and give you all the crazy stuff that they're experiencing. So I believe that 100%.
For sure. So I've got an interesting question. What is the strangest or the craziest encounter you've ever had in your career?
Strangest encounter. Interesting.
Like if you think back, one person that you tried selling to or a customer that you used to work with where it was just like, what the hell is actually happening right now?
We got to keep it PG. We got to keep it PG-13, I'm assuming here.
Yeah, no, this is actually rated R. I'm not even kidding. It's explicit. So.
Oh man, something crazy. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of, I've had some very interesting things happen. Uh, yeah, I'm just, wow, just, yeah, I could share something. A client maybe, years ago that I serviced in the city, and they promised me all this kind of business and stuff, and it was an interesting kind of business. They were selling like candles, like religious candles and stuff like that. It was definitely an interesting place. Like they never wanted me to go in the warehouse, but they had a lot of business for me. They had all this freight, stuff that I could pull and take, and they kind of started selling me, and how much business they're gonna give me, and this is when I was a young rep. This is, I was young, and I was hungry, and when you're in the game, you're getting early on, and I always ask, can I see the freight? And they could never show me what the product was, but I knew it was candles, huh?
That's a huge red flag right there.
Yeah. So I knew it was candles. I knew it was like religious things, and just didn't know what it was. So I kept on, staking out the place. And one day I went there after hours. I said, you know what, I want to see this free, because I keep telling my manager about this account, and he keeps on bringing it up to me. Hey, what's going on with that account? You've been telling me you're going to close this account. It's been 6 months, and you still have it on your pipeline. You still have it that's going to close. And I'm like, I'm gonna get the business, man. This girl and this guy, they're amazing people. Every time I go there, they sit me down. It always smells like incense in there. It smells really good. And I see there's cards in the back. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I just hear the stuff. And then one day I stake out the place late at night, and I go back through the warehouse, and I see there's candles in there. I see that there's these like statues. I see it, basically it was like something cool. It was like one of these voodoo places, and basically they wanted me to apparently they wanted me to move freight, stuff that was coming in from out of the country and bringing it back and forth. So they had some very interesting things. Eventually they got shut down. They were illegal. It was basically, they had dead animals in there. They were cutting up these animals. They were doing some crazy stuff, some very, interesting things that, when I found out about it, a few months later, I'm like, wow. Every time I went in there, these people sat me down. They would probably put me under a spell. They probably were trying to, hypnotize me. It was just one of these weird places that, really spooked me out after I found out the details.
So you're talking like goat heads and like
it was like chopped up dogs and cats, and these guys were sanctifying these things, and there was all these kind of incense smells, and it was some crazy sick people, man. It was some illegal thing that they had people going back there. It was interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's it. Wow, I don't even know what to say about that. That's really
Yeah,
wow.
It was pretty wild, but they sold me, we got all this business, and they never wanted me to see what it was, though. So I did the investigation, and I snuck in the back door. Luckily, I didn't get caught. They probably would have chopped me up.
Damn. Wow. I can't say I've ever had an experience like that,
That's crazy New York for you.
Yeah, no, seriously. That's for sure. That's for sure. I think that probably the craziest time I've ever had at work was when I went to, so I used to do some plumbing work, and we went into this lady's basement, and I'm not even going to get into it, but my God, we left. We left immediately. We said, no, ma'am, we cannot work with you. We can't fix your problem, because she had like this shrine in her basement. This was up in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Okay.
Shrine in her basement it was like some shit that you see out of like one of those movies with like the Celtic gods or something like that. And it looked like there were blood, and it's just, we saw that. We're like, nah.
Very good.
It was fixing this whole septic system and everything like that, where it would have been a couple $1,000s. I would have been able to pocket like, a couple $1,000s, and my partner would have been able to pocket a couple $1,000. We walked down there, we took one look at that, we looked at each other, and then we just went, no, we're going home. So that was that. That was probably the craziest thing. It was not anything that had to do with sales or anything, but it was just like, that's some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But listen, we're pretty much out of time here. But Jay, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank everybody else here. I'm going to switch back to my regular voice from the New York. So, how did I do with that?
You did amazing.
Yeah,
you crushed it, man. You knocked it out the park.
For sure. I mean, it was just reverting back. It felt as weird as me trying to not do it anymore. It was like the same thing when I was trying to stop, the same feeling when I tried going back, because I guess once you cross that barrier, it's hard to get back. And then, but the one thing I was never able to get rid of it, how you doing? And go fuck yourself. Those are the two. Like everybody just knows. Or if I pick up the phone when my mother calls, hey, Ma. And then when I moved down south, people died laughing when my mother called me because they were like, oh my God, that's real. That's Ma, that's real. And they started dying laughing. And I was like, what the hell? What do you call them? What do you call your mother here? And they say, mom or mother. And it's just like, oh, well, that's
so weird.
It's not exciting. It's like,
weird.
It's too much effort to say those words. It's Ma. So I pick up the phone, Ma, what do you want? Like, oh yeah, it's too funny. But yeah, thank you again, Jay, for coming on. Again, this is Down the Rabbit Hole podcast. I'm your host, Rob Turley, co-founder, co-CEO at White Rabbit Intel. And please follow our hashtags, hashtag DTRH podcast, hashtag follow the White Rabbit. Do not look that up on Instagram. I'm dead serious. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. And I look forward to the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Down the Rabbit Hole podcast for new episodes weekly on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, and YouTube. If you'd like to apply to be featured on the podcast or recommend a featured guest, please feel free to email us at theteam@whiterabbitintel.com.